Prosecutor Roth, I want to thank you for talking to me. I understand that there is what I would have to call a slightly new development in the situation involving 30-meter telescope and the folks atop the mountain who do not want to see it proceed. Can you go into some detail for me?
Well, what I can tell you is that we're having hearings, and these are on the cases that are up on the mountain, the initial people that were arrested. They had court, and one of the defendants actually sent me a note asking if we could move the matter into a ho'oponopono kind of mediation. We looked into that. We made some calls. We talked to the various defense attorneys and officials from TMT and from the university, and we're looking at the possibility of getting that done. So we are, at this point, what's happened is defendants have asked for continuances, and we have agreed to a continuance so we can put some perimeters on what ho'oponopono would look like and what we're trying to get out of it.
Who exactly is going to be involved in the ho'oponopono? Is this just for the 31 people who are arrested? Is this looking at the TMT development as a whole? Give us a little more information.
So I believe there's 19 remaining defendants left and who have cases up on the mountain. It's with these 19, and I believe at least one of the defendants has chose not to go that route, and they want to go through the regular trial route. We're waiting to hear if I think it's 19, probably 18 or 19 people would be going into this ho'oponopono. We're trying to figure out in how we set this up if we can have maybe 4 or 5 representatives representing that group, and then 4 or 5 representatives from the various, TMT, university, government, maybe DLNR represent, and then they could choose on a facilitator or a ho'oponopono coordinator, someone who would sit down with the group and try to talk to each other rather than yell at each other. I feel if you have people who are talking to each other, you have a possibility of having some kind of resolution.
Prosecutor Roth, I know that your background is purely legal, and my guess is in law school you did not run across ho'oponopono. So tell me how this is either something you would expect or something unusual, because to me it sounds unusual for the county prosecutor to consider and take such an approach.
Well, we do have mediation, which is very similar to ho'oponopono. Ho'oponopono more on a Hawaiian cultural level. So, if you look at it, some people think of it from a mediation standpoint, some people think of it from a ho'oponopono. The request came in for ho'oponopono. It makes sense with, the cultural issues that they try to go through that. So, yeah, it is a little bit unusual, actually quite unusual for us to take a case out to go through this process. We do have cases, though, that go through our court, and we use kuakahi mediation sometimes to divert some of these cases. In this case, there's so much animosity that goes on that people are yelling. There's all sorts of things that are being said in the press that really aren't correct, aren't accurate. We figured if we can get people who actually talk to each other and try to come to a resolution rather than just try to yell and scream and hope that they're going to get their way, we could do a lot more to keep our community safe and healthy. The other thing that I think it comes out of this is we have an opportunity to show the rest of the world as we look at places like Baltimore and Missouri and these places where the whole dealing with government is really a negative. We could turn this into something positive and try to actually look at one of our laws that's not very often looked at, which is the Aloha Spirit Law, and try to deal with this situation with a little bit of aloha.
Prosecutor Roth, if you have a sense of it now, do you see a time frame put on the ho'oponopono?
My understanding is that we are continuing these cases for, I believe, a little bit over a month. During that month period, we'll be getting together with the attorneys and that's the defense attorneys, and with the prosecutor's office. We'll also be probably talking to the university people and to TMT and to maybe the governor's office to work out what the parameters are. We're hoping that in the next couple of weeks we have it. If I have, in my mind, what I'd like to see is, like I said, 4 or 5 people from each side sitting down and talking to each other, maybe having representatives on each side from the Royal Order of Kamehameha, so you have some people that will be respectable to each other and respected by both sides. And I think that's really one of the keys, is if we can get people who are willing to talk and willing to respect each other, then we may be able to come out with some kind of consensus on what happens.
Prosecutor Roth, you mentioned the Aloha Spirit Law, and although I've known there was an Aloha Spirit Law, I don't imagine that most people have actually read it. So why don't you give us a primer on the Aloha Spirit Law?
Well, it's kind of funny. The Aloha Spirit Law talks about aloha and how we got this word, and it was really a gift from our Hawaiian ancestors, the people that came before us. But it also requires, or it tells the officials in the state of Hawaii that we should consider the aloha spirit, dealing with cases with aloha, and how we handle these situations. And so for this situation where people are getting so nasty, and people are fighting against each other, brothers and sisters, people in their same families are disagreeing, because there's good points on both sides. This is really a great chance to say, here in Hawaii, we do things a little bit differently, and we have aloha, and the way we deal with our problems, we should take, the culture that we've been gifted with and apply it. So this is a chance for us to do that in this case, is to get people in the room and, with open hearts, open minds, have discussions versus the nastiness of yelling at each other.